Hello, friends. When empires collapse, it's not armies or economies that fall first. It's the truth. And in its place, myths appear, comforting, simple, and convenient. They explain everything with one phrase: we're not to blame. As long as people believe that they don't have to face reality. Modern Russia lives on these myths. The myth of a glorious past, the myth of a sacred mission, the myth of a hostile West, and the myth of restoring historical justice. These aren't just stories told on television. They become a substitute for thinking. They give ready-made answers to every question. Why has life become worse? Who's guilty? Why is there war? Because a myth isn't a lie. It's a way to stop thinking. But here's the paradox. Facts can be checked, but myths can't be destroyed by facts alone. Not when people live inside them emotionally. After 20 years of hearing that Russia is great and surrounded by enemies, millions no longer look for arguments. Feelings are enough. Propaganda, like a skilled director, knows. Truth doesn't sell if lies are told beautifully. This is the first part of a larger conversation about how these myths were created, why they were needed, and why they outlived their authors. From the Soviet Union to Ukraine, from the great past to the Holy War. It's one story, how power turns reality into legend, and people into spectators of that legend. Today, we won't argue with emotions. We'll dissect the mechanics. Because when you understand how the machine of falsehood works, no propagandist can ever use it on you again. Small Blue Diamond, the myth of the glorious past. We were great. We were feared. We dictated the will of the world. That's how every textbook of propaganda begins. Because if people believe there was once a golden age, they'll endure any present just to get back there. The USSR is still presented as an era of justice and equality. But behind the romantic fog was inequality, control, and fear. Republics were equal only on paper. Real decisions were made in Moscow. Resources flowed to the center. In return came orders and slogans. At its formation, the Russian Soviet Republic itself was economically underdeveloped. The real industrial and resource centers were in Baku, Donbass, Tbilisi, Tashkent, and Kiev, where oil, coal, and metals were produced. The very foundation of the Soviet greatness. Moscow lived off those regions, yet called them the periphery. So when today they say Russia fed everyone, it's the opposite. For decades, the republics fed Moscow. The myth of greatness is not analysis, it's consolation. It replaces questions with nostalgia. And the louder the "we were great" sounds, the quieter the question becomes, who are we now? Small Blue Diamond, the myth of the enemies at the gates. Every empire needs an enemy. It gives purpose, explains failure, and unites through fear. When a state can't inspire people by what they live for, it tells them who they must live against. That's where the myth of the hostile West comes from. It didn't appear yesterday. It moved from Tsarist Russia to the USSR and then to modern Russia. Different flags, same logic. Everyone is against us. It's not meant to terrify, it's meant to distract. While people discuss NATO conspiracies, they stop asking why living standards fall, why opportunities vanish, why power bears no responsibility. But let's be honest, it wasn't NATO that came to Russia's borders. It was Russia's neighbors, tired of its control, the one where they saw security and progress. They weren't dragged there. They chose it. The enemy, myth, is the cornerstone of the system. Without it, the illusion collapses. The illusion that power is always right and the nation always a victim. Small Blue Diamond, the myth of the special path. When an empire declines, it invents destiny. If it can't lead the world, it declares itself different from the world. That's how the idea of a special Russian path was born, a path supposedly inaccessible to anyone else. But the essence is simple. Whatever doesn't work becomes our uniqueness. Corruption, our mentality. Isolation, independence. Dictatorship, our traditional order. It's not philosophy. It's self-deception dressed as pride. And it's dangerous, because it closes the country off from change. When you believe we're not like them, you stop learning from others and start repeating the same mistakes forever. Small Blue Diamond, the myth of Russia, the liberator. Perhaps the most enduring and dangerous myth. Russia as the eternal liberator. It never called itself a conqueror, always a savior. From Poland to Finland, from the Caucasus to Ukraine, every war was declared defensive. Every occupation, a mission of liberation. But the map tells a different story. Wherever Russia liberated, it left garrisons, censorship, and taxes. No nation freed by Russia ever asked to be freed twice. This is not just propaganda. It's a psychological mechanism to hide expansion behind morality and aggression behind compassion. That's why today's war is called defense, not invasion. As long as that myth lives, every new aggression will look like protection, and every truth will sound like betrayal. Small Blue Diamond conclusion. If you connect all these myths, the glorious past, the enemies at the gates, the special path, and the liberator mission, you see not random stories, but a system. A system where lies are not tools. They're the foundation of power. Propaganda doesn't persuade, it replaces thinking. It turns defeat into a test, isolation into independence, and aggression into defense. But respect built on fear isn't strength, it's dependence. And the more a country depends on its myths, the less it's able to face its own truth. This is only the first part. In the next one, we'll look at how these myths work in practice. In Ukraine, the Caucasus, and Central Asia, and why no empire can live without the legend of its higher mission. Because exposing myths is not about the past. It's about the future, where truth finally becomes normal again. Full analysis from a regional expert who knows the inside reality on Empire Watch.